Used to go around like universities and stuff and pretend I was a lost student and blag people for money. Yeah, I used to make quite a lot of money doing that. At the time, I was on a 90 ml methadone script and I was using two to £300 worth of heroin and crack a day. I had a great childhood. Everything I could ask for, really. You know, growing up on the outskirts of Cardiff, you know, had friends who probably didn't have their mother around or their father around, you know, single parents. But my family, great household, they're still together to this day. And we had everything we wanted, really. In the summer, we play sports. They made sure I was involved in every activity. Anything I asked for, if they couldn't get it, they'd get the next best thing. And yeah, I got fond memories as a child.
When did you start going down a direction? When did you start taking drugs?
I started taking drugs at like the age of 16, 17. I remember in high school, I was really against drugs. I was anti-drug. My uncle was a heroin addict. He was in prison for a long time. And I remember my father, my mother, my grandmother, I used to see him go through a lot of stress. We used to go prison visits and stuff. So I always kind of was drummed into me that drugs were bad. My dad was anti-drug, never smoked a fag, never, you know, would drink on the weekends, but, you know, not much. And I don't know, it kind of, I was coming into my last years of high school, really, where I started to venture out on taking drugs, started with cannabis. And a lot of people would say this isn't true, but it was a gateway drug for me. I had a few problems with myself. I had a severe mental health issues. And I put my pathway to drug addiction into three ways, and that was bad timing, the people I hung around with, and my mental health. I was diagnosed with severe OCD and ADHD, but what people think when you say OCD is, you know, you're a clean freak, you know, and that's clearly not the case for me. If you went to my bedroom or in my house, you wouldn't think I had OCD, but it's more of a ritualistic thing. And I used to get obsessed with certain things, and I always used to have like these anxious, paranoid thoughts. And if I'd have to do these certain rituals, and these rituals could, you know, differentiate day to day. And if I didn't do these rituals, then I'd automatically think something bad would happen either to myself or to a loved one. You know, when we're all young, like we the pressure of growing up, being in the crowd and stuff, we don't want to admit we've got problems. We don't want to open up that we've got problems. So instead of saying I've got problems, you know, I would try and find ways to mask it. And drug use is, that was what the drug use was for.
And how old were you when you first took heroin?
I was just turning 18 when I first tried heroin. I was 19, a full-on, quote-unquote, smackhead.
Can you talk us through the sort of the hold it can have on you?
It just runs your life. You're a prisoner to it. You can't do nothing. You know, you know, and for the first couple of years, I tried to blend in, tried to cover it, but you might think you've got it under control, but you just clearly haven't. You know, you can't go down the pub, you can't go out on the weekend with the boys because you have to sly off because you need to use, or, you know, it just takes all your normal social events away from you. And that's just that's just talking about the effect of what it has doing normal things. The abnormal things I was doing to get the drug was horrific. And the first 5 years of addiction, I used to go around like universities and stuff and pretend I was a lost student and blag people for money. Yeah, I used to make quite a lot of money doing that. And then it was only towards the second half of my addiction when I started to become a shoplifter. And again, up and down the country, shoplifting. But it was just pure desperation the whole time, sheer desperation.
And how many times were you in prison?
10, 11 times. 10 I know I've been. every time I went to prison, I did try to change my way. It was a time for me where I thought I needed to change. And every time I was in prison, I always looked at like, I'm going to get out this time and sort my life out. Every single time. There was a few times I'd have to go in there and do a detox, do a cluck off the heroin. But there was times as well that I was on a methadone script whilst in there. And that don't help anyone. A methadone script to me is kind of just dumbing you down as a person, I would say. I've been on probably 15, 20 methadone scripts, kicked off, started again, where it's just a vicious circle type of thing. So yeah, every time I come out of prison, I was, back to using.
How did you stop?
So obviously lockdown was different. It was new for all of us, but especially for someone like myself who's a shoplifter. A lot of the retail stores were shut, so we were traveling around to hit like small cooperative shops, and it was just getting on top. I was really manic at the time. This was like probably the worst I was. I was a different person, and I knew my body was deteriorating. At the time, I was on a 90 ml methadone script, and I was using 200 to 300 pounds worth of heroin and crack a day. I never injected heroin. I always smoked it, so I always had a problem with my lungs where I was smoking so much. And one day it was September, the end of September, coming up to August. We're just past 2 years, and basically a friend of mine passed away, who was my co-defendant. He used to drive me around everywhere. He passed away, and the same day he passed away, I got rushed to hospital. And when I went into hospital, I come around a day later with all needles in me and stuff, drips and stuff in both arms, and they said I had sepsis and pneumonia. And I thought I was going to die. Like, I've many times before, like I've been in bad situations where I've had to do detoxes, and I've been in hospital beds, prison beds, done all the stuff what I thought would, this is the last time, but I genuinely knew this was the last time. So whatever my friend and I were using, it obviously had an effect on us. When I was in hospital, I kind of had this like awakening. It sounds cheesy, I know. But I had this type of awakening, and I knew this would have to be the time I had to change. I couldn't go through another detox.
And so what was different about either your treatment or your mindset for the time that you got clean last?
This is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I think it's an amazing thing. It's something called Buvidal. It's a new drug, basically, that's been tested here in the UK, especially in Wales. It's funny, I actually heard about the drug whilst I was still coming up to where I almost went into hospital. I heard about this drug that was going to be getting rolled out during lockdown for chaotic users like myself. But then when I went to hospital, and I was, really ill in hospital, the nurse came to me and he said, look, we'll keep you on your methadone script, but you're going to have to go every single day now, including weekends, or go try this Buvidal. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm 2 years clean now. For the first time in my adult life, I'm free of drugs.
So how does Buvidal work?
So it's an injection into the muscle. You can have it in your buttocks, your arm. I has it in my stomach because I've got a bit of a belly there. So, and what it does is it basically releases a blocker into your system, which lasts for 30 days. So with methadone and with Subutex and other opiate substitutes, they last 24 hours. You need a new dose. And there's a lot of bad effects with these drugs as well. With methadone, you can still use on top because it's an opiate. Also with methadone, it ruins your body. There's this myth that it gets inside your bones. It feels like that. Also, it makes you actually feel like you're still using drugs because it's very strong. So if you are trying to get clean and they put you on a methadone script, you're just gonna feel like you're a heroin addict still. There's that famous word for methadone, they call it the liquid handcuffs, where you're a prisoner to it. This Buvidal, straight away, it helps a lot of people in the sense of getting their life back. Not only that, a lot of these places where you go to pick up your methadone is full of other people who are on drugs. A high percentage of them don't really want to come off drugs. They're using methadone as another way of a high. So my dad used to say is these places where you pick up your methadone, it's like going to a Gamblers Anonymous in the Coral or an AA meeting within the Wetherspoons.
For those that are on, like yourself, Buvidal, if you did decide to go out and get heroin again, what effect would it have?
Yeah, it would do nothing. Like, you might as well just get a lighter and just burn your money. Literally, like it does nothing. The difference with Buvidal, other than methadone and Subutex, you don't get a buzz on it. It's not like methadone where you kind of feel a bit this is a total block. Like, you feel totally normal again. And that can be tough for people who have suppressed their mind with such a strong painkiller for so long. A lot of people in addiction are hiding from trauma, or they're hiding from things they've done whilst on drugs. So it's masking problems. And when you take that blanket off, people struggle.
What was that first month on it like for you?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I'm going to be fair. Like I said, it was the first month, my friend just died, and I've got all these emotions coming back as someone who's coming off heroin as well, which you do anyway. I'm having wet dreams. I'm feeling like life's going too quick for me. I'm thinking about everyone I've robbed. I'm thinking about everyone I've hurt in my life. I'm thinking about my mate passing, trying to put blame on myself. Like, it wasn't comfortable for me. So I can imagine other people who go on it, it might not be the most comfortable, but when you get past that first month, it's amazing. It's literally, I live a normal life now.
How long did you use for in total?
Well, it was coming up to 13 years, 12 years, if you include this one. I first tried it at 17.
Do you ever think what it was about you that put you down that path?
Yeah, like, I always say, like, I said something recently about how, like, we try and dig for trauma. Like, when you go to see, like, a doctor or something, they'll tell you to, like, tackle the root problem. And because, like, I was never, I had a good childhood. I was never abused as a kid. It's not like, someone in my family, was like a tragic death. And I could never find out what the problem was. And that's kind of why I carried on using, because I didn't really find out until towards the end when I started, coming off the drugs, that I realized that, like, it could be the littlest of things that make you take drugs and have mental health issues and stuff. So when I look back, it was definitely my mental health and the decisions I made as a young child, whether it was a small thing or a big thing. I now work for a company called Kaleidoscope, who are based in Newport. I'm now employed within my city of Cardiff with a project called Voices Action Change, and it's all about co-production, service user involvement. It was only 2 years ago I was actually on them streets running ragged. So a lot of them know who I am. They've seen me at my worst. They know I'm trustworthy, and we're just trying to change the way we run services and have more of an involvement from people within services. There's just a massive stigma around drug users, drug addiction, junkies. That's what needs to change.
I woke up once and my world was never ever the same. And that's when I realised that I was physically and mentally addicted to it.